I've been curious about a couple of things. Can you talk to us about angels and spirit guides?
Well, there are a lot of different names and labels that you give in your attempt to explain your interpretation of non-physical. What specifically are you wanting from us?
How do angels or spirit guides work? Are they real? How do we experience them? How do we call on them?
Well, it's a big question because a lot of different people use those labels and mean somewhat different things by them. But in essence, what you're asking about, you are extensions of source energy. And so, of course, all of that is real. In other words, as Esther is allowing us to visit with you as she translates, we're offering radio signals or blocks of thought that are like radio signals, and she's translating them. And there are people who, when they receive those blocks of thoughts or radio signals, can translate visually. Esther is translating verbally. And so the non-physical is interacting with you in many different ways. And depending upon the intensity of your desire to know and your ability to allow in any given moment is what makes for the variety of experiences that different people are having. Esther said to us one night early on in her new relationship with us consciously, "Abraham, I want to see you." And we said, "We don't think you really do," because we had seen her lying in her bed with her eyes closed, afraid that she might see us. She was beginning to develop a very nice relationship with us, and she didn't want anything weird to happen that would upset her in any way. And so she said, "No, really, Abraham, I do want to see you." And we said, "Then open your eyes." It was a very dark bedroom out under a Texas sky. Jerry was sound asleep, and Esther opened her eyes, and she saw a room full of fireflies, what looked like millions of fireflies, too many to count. And then all of the fireflies gathered together in one corner, emitting a light that was so bright that Esther could not look into it. And then the bright light dispersed into several lights around the room, not millions and not one bright light, but several lights around the room that Esther could behold. And then she said, "I see that you are energy." And we said, "This is your visual translation of that which we are." And it is the most accurate translation that Esther and her practical mindedness could find, because it was the translation in the way that we were projecting it. In other words, we want Esther to understand that we are energy. There are those who want their spirit guide or their non-physical energy stream to be translated to them in ways that match the stories that they've been told. One day, early in also in Jerry and Esther's experience, they did a radio broadcast in Dallas, Texas. And one of the women who heard the broadcast came to the first meeting and later became a very good friend with Jerry and Esther. And she later told them that at that first meeting, or on that way to that meeting, she had said, "All right, Abraham, whoever you are you good or evil?" Which sort of gives you an idea of where she was at that time. She did not yet know what we had to say, and she was not sure how it all broke down into physical terminology. And so, as the meeting unfolded, Esther remembers Abraham sitting in a chair and opening her eyes and then pausing in silence for what felt to Esther like a very long time. And then the meeting got underway and the questions and answers began. And a few weeks later, once Jerry and Esther became very good friends with this dear woman, she told them about her story, about how she had quizzed us on her way to the meeting, and that when Esther, Abraham, opened their eyes, that the room filled with wings of angels. And so we were offering a block of thought to this woman who was asking this intense question, a woman who was able to interpret visually on many occasions, and her interpretation gave her the answer that she was looking for, you see. And so we want to say to you in a soft way that it is in the eye of the beholder, in the sense that everyone has the ability to interact with non-physical, but you cannot interact apart from the beliefs you already hold.
Right.
So sometimes in the beginning, what you will receive in terms of what you see or even what you hear will match the belief system that you hold. And in time, as you get more in sync with who you are, and you're able to relax and release some of the folklore that you've picked up along your physical trail, then you can begin to have more of your own authentic experience. But we want to say to you, one who sees light in a room or fireflies in a room is not more accurate than one who sees a room filled with angels' wings or angels. In other words, you get to interpret this in whatever way that you want to. It is offered to you purely, but you are the interpreter of it, and so you make it what it is. And so over time, it is extraordinary the amount of stories that physical man tells about his interaction with non-physical. We would call all of it real. We would call all of it valid. And then we would say, if we were standing in your physical shoes, in what way do I want to interact? Esther was not coming from a religious basis, and she did not want any distortion whatsoever. She was the purest slate that we had seen, in that she had not come to any conclusions of her own that would prohibit her from being able to receive clearly what we were offering. And so, as Esther finds words, they are always words that match the intention that we are offering. And then over time, as we offer words, and Esther depicts our meaning with words, and we are able to feel your response to her words, and then we are able to feel your vibration in response to her words. Over time, we have literally created a language that depicts purely the intent of Abraham. But that does not mean that it is the only language that is authentic. There are many ways of interpreting non-physical.